So far, I'm showing a little bit of patience here with this WLP. You can see that that gap higher did fail and it's pulled back, not quite to the daily pivot. That's again just a reference point. What we want to see here now is I'm going to look to the 1 minute chart just for today, and we can see that the stock is still below this declining daily VWAP. So what I'm hoping is going to happen is that we get another push lower that gets us down close to that daily VWAP, and then I'm going to watch for it to settle in. And this is probably, if it can do what I hope it does, that is, it can settle down and then maybe turn sideways a little bit over here, consolidate near 63.30, 63.40, then buy it as it breaks back up above that daily VWAP. So I don't see it occurring for probably another 5 to 10 minutes, so I'm just going to keep this on pause. I'd accidentally deleted a previous part of this video, but I was pointing out the heavy volume that it was up on yesterday and the very light volume we've seen so far this morning. So in my mind, it's still setting up very bullishly. We've got a nice looking 10-minute chart here, and obviously the daily looks strong as well. So you can see here I'm keeping an eye on the level 2 screen as well, just so I can see the speed of the prints, to see what kind of size is being traded. So far just pretty small stuff in here. Doesn't seem like anyone wants to come in and take there's any conviction in this stock yet. And that's again represented by the real light volume that we have here too. So if we look at that 1 minute chart, it is kind of consolidating and holding up here, but it is below the daily VWAP, and that daily VWAP is declining. So we're only, what is this, 13 minutes into the day so far, but this is how you want to show the patience of buying a stock that you think is set up on the bigger time frame. There's no reason to go in and just buy the stock blindly in here. Instead, we want to make sure that we've got a good low risk entry, and we've got maybe a little bit of momentum. So I'm just going to put this back on pause and see how it continues to develop. Okay, so we're starting to see the volume pick up a little bit in here. The stock hasn't really moved here in the last couple minutes, but you can see that it's stabilizing a little bit with that volume. So I'm probably going to be looking to purchase the stock. I'm just anticipating maybe a move above $63.60. It's still just kind of back and forth in here. I think that I'd start a position maybe with 500 shares. So let's just let this continue to develop. We do have so far this morning a higher low in this pullback on the daily time, on the 10-minute time frame and 5-minute time frame. You can see it's a bullish looking pattern still here, and we have to keep our thoughts. That is, remember that where we are on the bigger picture is this is a bullish looking setup here. The stock has broken this resistance and did so yesterday on a nice surge in volume. So there was a big rush to get into the stock with that volume, and then this morning, as we're seeing a little bit of pullback, it doesn't seem as though there's big sellers, big profit takers in here. So in my mind, that makes it seem as though it's more likely to continue to move higher again, and that's why we're watching this. And we had originally been looking at the daily pivot as maybe a level where buyers would show up. And again, the pivots aren't meant to be a trading system, but just a reference point. When the market gets extended in a short period of time by running a dollar late yesterday, we want to see it pull back, and then we want to say, well, where does it have the potential to pull back to? Well, that pivot is one of the first places that I normally look at. But this morning so far, it's the stock seems to be finding a little bit of support higher up than that, and I'm not going to force the trade and get into it right now, not while it's below that daily VWAP, but I am encouraged the way it seems to be holding up in here, and we'll just continue to monitor this. Well, we just saw some heavy volume and a little bit of a shakeout here. The stock dropped down about a dime or so, and it didn't continue lower here. So that's giving me further encouragement that you start to see this daily VWAP, and that's represented by these dots right now. But we're starting to see that daily VWAP flatten out a little bit, and I think getting above that $63.60 level, that's where the momentum would come into the name. So I want to be watching the stock and anticipating what it would take to get me interested in purchasing it, but I don't want to go ahead and just rush in and buy the stock, because obviously here these encouraging signs might not be so encouraging as the stock is dropping a little bit. The market is a moving mechanism, and we have to adjust our positions and thoughts according to what the market gives us, based around an overall framework, and that framework is based on the charts. That meaning that we're coming up with our thesis for the trade based on these longer term time frames, but we need to see confirmation of that thesis develop through price action on the shorter term time frames before we put our money to risk here, and we'll just continue to let this trade develop. Okay, it looks like we're getting some action here. So it's getting up towards that daily VWAP, and we're seeing the speed of the tape here a little bit faster, and it seems as though the buyers are starting to get a little bit more anxious. We still want to see confirmation from price, though. I'm not just going to look at the speed of the level 2, and that is the speed of the tape, and look for to get excited by price action. I want to wait for actual price confirmation, and to me that means getting up to or above this 60 cent level. And until it does that, it's just a matter of being patient and letting the trade develop. Well, we're back down through the low end of the range here, and actually at new lows for the day in shares of WellPoint. So the patience has saved us from making a losing trade here right now. And again, the daily VWAP, that's this line, represents the average price that the stock has traded at today. You take all the shares that have traded times the price that they've traded at, add that all up and divide it by the number of shares traded. That gives you your volume weighted average price. The average price the stock's traded at today right now is at about $63.56. So that means that the average person in the stock is down about 23 cents. And as bullish as it looks on these bigger time frames, here it is. Maybe it's going to come down and touch upon or come closer to that daily pivot. Perhaps that's where the stock's going to settle in. And it's still, we just saw a little bit of a surge in volume here. So I think the initial people who purchased this stock probably are spitting it out in here, and it's better to be on the sidelines waiting and stalking the stock rather than being involved in having that first initial loss. Well, look at that. Now we're getting a pretty quick change of tone here to the stock. We had that little shakeout, now a big candle up here, just a 25-cent rally here in the last couple minutes. So it looks as though the buyers are stepping in on that little pullback, and we've still got this little resistance here from this morning and our daily volume weighted average price, which is right now at about 56 cents. So I'm going to just continue to be a little bit patient here, and I like the action in this, and I've been watching it closely enough that I think I'll probably do 1,000 shares rather than just starting with 500. I want to make some money here today, so let's see how it responds. So you can see initially it ran right up to the volume weighted average price. It's pulling back. Now we want to see this volume weighted average price flatten out and then see the price get above that. That would really be a nice scenario for this stock to continue higher on the bigger trends, that is the time frames from such as this 10-minute time frame and the 5-minute time frame. So we've been focusing on here just this is a 2-minute time frame. Each one of these candles represents 2 minutes worth of data, and the 1-minute time frame, which is minute by minute right now. Okay, so even here on this 1-minute chart, we can see that the biggest volume came on this recovery candle, and then we had seen the market back away from that daily VWAP on lighter volume, and it kind of just doing nothing here on lighter volume still. So if we can get another volume push, that is, we get a buyer to come in here, I think that's what's going to take to get this stock to get into a position where we'll finally make our purchase. Well, the stock just continues to drift lower here on light volume, and as much as I thought we had a positive volume pattern here, I wanted to point that out. That again, it's good to study the volume, but remember that only price pays. We're looking for price confirmation, not trading on volume. You can say, but it's down on light volume. Would you rather lose 2% of your money on heavy volume or light volume? You're still losing 2% of your money, so it's important to continue to keep an eye on such things such as that pivot level. So the pivot right now is at about $63.12. That's the red line. That might be where the sellers stop selling here this morning, and we get more serious buyers to step in. So it's just a whole bunch of nothing so far, but it's better to sit here and not lose money than it is to try and get involved prematurely and be in a losing position as the average person is. The average person owns the stock at 63.51 right now, so they're down 25-30 cents in the stock, and I personally don't like being down, especially first thing in the morning in a trade. So this is just an exercise right now, I guess, in patience and sticking with a plan and trying to be disciplined about not getting excited and going in and buying it on these bigger volume bars, but instead letting the stock do what we want it to do, which is to recover up through the daily VWAP. Okay, so the stock has hit the pivot right now, and a lot of times people do step in and buy at that pivot level, which is why we want to look at it as a reference point, not necessarily something where I'm going to put my money to risk here and just try and buy there because I think that it should act as support. I want to see evidence of actual support before I buy. I don't want to buy because it's at a level where I think there should be support. Now, if we come down a little bit further, I think that if the stock breaks the 2-day volume weighted average price at 62.90 and stays below it, then it's pretty much done for the for this move. And I really think that my focus on this stock would have been wasted. But I would give it down towards that level and see if it can still recover. And I'm still looking for the recovery to occur though on the 1-minute time frame and get back above the daily VWAP. So you can see obviously that daily VWAP continues to decline as the stock declines, saying that the average price that it's traded at is at a lower price than where it was obviously 10 minutes ago. Anyways, so far it's just a game of discipline and patience. Looking at this 5-minute chart, that is, each candle represents 5 minutes worth of data. It really is a nice looking setup here with this bigger volume on the rally and light volume here still this morning. We could even take a look just out of curiosity and say on this move, if we took a look at the Fibonacci, we're right down at a 61.8% retracement. So in other words, what we're looking at here is from this low to that high, this is a 61.8% retracement right here that we've touched upon. We're still kind of consolidating near that daily VWAP, and we can take a look in here at the Fibonacci as well and just say, on this move, look at where that 61.8% retracement lines up. So this is, in my mind, a critical area for this stock. It's going to need to hold up in this level. So we can take a look in here. I might even buy at this point 500 shares down here if it can hold on. I don't want to see this happen though, which is what we've got, which is the stock is continuing to decline here. So I'm considering maybe purchasing a half a position down. If it can get maybe back above 63.20, it'll still be below the daily VWAP. So above 63.20, maybe we get a move up towards the daily VWAP. It kind of finds a little resistance and then breaks higher. So that's just kind of the the little scenario that I think has the potential to occur. Here's that 2-day volume weighted average price that we're coming into as well. So it's getting pretty close to do or die on this trade. Well, still no entry, and it's looking like it's pretty close to dying here. We're right at the 2-day volume weighted average price, so that means it takes into consideration the volume from yesterday's move higher. So between all of yesterday and what the amount of trading that's occurred so far today, the average price has been about $62.90. So we're below that. If the market can't catch a bid in this area, if the stock can't catch a bid in this area and hold on and recover, then it's most likely going to be a failed move here. And you still look at this 5 and 10 minute chart. It really, I mean, it's right back to this prior level of resistance. Resistance broken tends to act as support, so we've got that going for it. We've got the 2-day volume weighted average price going for it, but we're just drifting lower in here. Now, if I'm going to buy any position, I'll buy a half a position in here, or 500 shares, and then I would keep a stop pretty close by. But still, you just can't buy into this type of weakness. So far, we've watched this stock decline a full dollar here this morning. So there's again, it just shows that you want to wait until the buyers can rebuild and gain control. I suppose the lesson here too is about technical analysis and technical trading. The way a lot of people trade with technical analysis is they take things very literally. They'll take, for instance, a 61.8% retracement, say I have to buy there, or they'll say I have to buy at the daily pivot because that should become support. Or they'll go to the 10-minute time frame and say resistance broken becomes support. It tends to act as support, but right now we're dropping down through that, and it again is telling us that these are just reference points, things we want to keep an eye on, and then say how is the market responding in there. We don't want to be the ones who just blindly buy at a 2-day volume weighted average price or at a certain percentage retracement, and we don't want to be fooled the way a lot of people are into buying because they think, well, it's a low volume pullback this morning. Well, that first initial low volume pullback turned into another dollar loss. So it's about understanding that we come up with our plan of action on a larger time frame, and then we see if the market does in fact comply with what we want it to do. It's all, our analysis is subjective. The market can do whatever it wants. The market usually does do whatever it wants, and we need to have our plan dynamic and listen to the message of the market. The message this morning in WellPoint is that the sellers are in control here this morning. We've got these potential levels but they were just potential. They were not holding any weight so far, and so purchasing just hasn't made sense. Well, I think it's safe to say at this point that this trade in WellPoint is not going to set up the way I'd hoped it would, and we have to plan our trades and trade our plan and realize the market gives us new information to look at. The idea today was that we were going to look for it to pull back down towards the pivot, hopefully find some support, then bounce up through the daily VWAP. Obviously, we still remain below this declining daily VWAP, and there's no reason to buy this stock. So not all of your trades work, and a lot of times just sitting on your hands is gonna it's not as exciting as being in a trade, but at the same time, if you can save yourself from taking a loser and understand how to read the market as the action is unfolding and not take the position, that's almost as good as a winning trade. And hope this video was useful to you. Thank you.